Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new season of the Purposeful Life Show with your host, Adrian Starks. I'm excited to share some new updates of the show with you, starting with a new look, sound, and energy, as well as a variety of guests coming aboard with intriguing topics of conversation. I hope you enjoy the new level of energy that will be brought to the show. Thank you for all of your support since the very beginning in 2019. Wow, it's been 3 years already? Because of you, the Purposeful Life Show is now in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, and we aim to get it into the top 1%. Continue listening to the show and share it with others. You can also now listen to the show on my Facebook page at Adrian Starks, where you can comment in real time and communicate with me about your aha moments. Thank you again for all of your support, and let's make this one hell of a year and be purposeful about doing that. Wishing you all much love and success. Have you wondered how and why people think the way they do? Why you can see your business or personal life a certain way while others can't? Do you wonder why you feel a certain way when it comes to certain encounters in life? And you keep ending up getting the same results, but yet you can't figure out how to make that change. This is because we are all operating from opinions that are called personal philosophies. And yes, you are your own philosopher. Stay tuned to learn how we can determine better philosophies for our personal and business lives. Hi, my name is Adrian Starks, and welcome to the Purposeful Life Show on the Champion Up Podcast. This podcast is for the courageous creators wanting to create a life of meaning, adventure, and fulfillment, all while helping to make the world a better place. I'm happy you're here, and if you're new to our show, make sure to give us that 5-star rating and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Also, connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Champion Up. It is always that one idea that could be your breakthrough. It's time to step into your courage and believe the champion in you. Welcome back to a new episode on the Purposeful Life Show, and I'm your host, Adrian Starks. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform and give us a rating and review. I would love to hear from you. Let's talk about being a philosopher. Yeah, I said the word philosopher, and you are one, so do not close out on this podcast, all right? Because we all have this perception about how we think things are, and one rule of thumb about philosophy to most people is they think it is boring and that they have nothing to do with it because they're not reading all the time, they're not sitting and thinking about life, they've got things to do, they've got places to go, they've got problems to encounter. Yeah, I get it, and I know. But philosophy is an important perspective in life change. It is an important perspective in navigating through these challenging things called time across the world. It is important for you to know about what your personal philosophy is because this determines how you show up in business and in your personal life. So where does philosophy come from? And why is it such an important topic amongst a lot of speakers, a lot of writers, a lot of singers to this very day? You see, when you're listening to music, you're hearing bouts of philosophy. When you see people speaking on TV about their ideas and beliefs, you're hearing bouts of philosophy. When someone sells a product, when someone is looking to express what they're doing in their new business or their new venture, that's bouts of philosophy. Philosophy is about personal experience. It's about ideas and thoughts. It's about how you perceive the world around you, and we call this based on getting feedback from your environments. You've been building philosophy in your lifestyle since the day you were born. You were learning from your parents, you were learning from your peers, you were learning from other people in your environments, and more importantly, you were learning from yourself. These are what we call personal experiences, and these personal experiences become the data that we use to make a decision about the things that we feel connected to or not connected to. This is called philosophy. I became attracted to philosophy when I was in high school. Then it became more of a deeper infatuation when I got into college. I learned about the Renaissance, and this was the era where everything to me was changing for the better. You see, the Renaissance was about ideas and thoughts that were blossoming new men and women into ventures that at that time were considered to be unattainable. They tested and they pushed beyond the limits, and this was the birth of the Renaissance. From the Renaissance, it gave birth to many powerful leaders and figures. One that really touched me deeply, that I am still highly impacted to this day from, is the great Socrates. He is known for many quotes. One quote that I'm sure that many of you probably have heard of is the quote, "Be true to thine own self," or "to thine own self be true." He was the first person to really say this quote, although we've heard it later in the years from leaders such as Jesus, Buddha, and other great figures during their time. But Socrates, he started this whole idea of knowing thyself by going into self-reflection and finding out what it is exactly that you are having a question or some type of challenge about. That is why he's considered to be one of the greatest figures of all time when it comes to self-knowledge. He's so great that I have him tattooed on my forearm, and I love the responses I get from people. Sometimes when people see it, their eyes will open very wide, and they're like, "Oh, that's one of those philosophers. Let me guess. Let me see which one is it. Is it Plato?" I say, "No." They say, "Is it, what's that guy's name? Starts with an S. Socrates?" "Yes, it's Socrates." Then you get those people. "Is it Moses?" Nothing wrong with that answer, but I'm like, no, it's not Moses. I mean, I could see the beard and everything, but it's like, yeah. The responses I get from people is quite interesting, but I don't do it for the responses. I have them tattooed on my forearm because I really owned up to the fact of a reminder that whatever I touch, whatever I put my hands on, it has to come from that part of me that's true to myself. In every conversation, in every business transaction, in every person I teach, in every idea that I give birth to, whether it be on paper or through a microphone or through this podcast, it has to come from that true part of myself. This, however, is not the most powerful quote that I find is going to be useful in this particular podcast. The quote that I'm really after right now with Socrates is this famous quote: "The key to life change is to focus our energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." I'll say it again. The key to life change is to focus all of our energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Building the new comes from how we think, feel, and act toward the world that we are navigating ourselves in. This is why philosophy is so important, because what you're doing right now, currently listening to this podcast, you're operating from a personal philosophy of self-growth and self-development. It's a disciplined behavior that you have, and you can only grow forward in your life with better results doing that. But we can also continuously look at and redefine our philosophies of life. This is why you are a philosopher, because each day that you walk outside, you are perceiving the world in a certain way that causes you to respond. That response leads to what we call actions, and those actions give us back results that we want or we don't want. This is why you have to really think about your philosophy of life. How do you feel about the world around you? Because that world around you is your friends, your family, your spouses, your children. That's your world. How are you operating toward this world? In your business world, who are you surrounding yourself around, and what are their thoughts and ideas? This is why masterminds are so important. People get around other people that have greater ideas than them because they know that it is about personal philosophy. I'm intrigued when I hear people talk about how successful people are and what they're doing and how they're so amazing and so brilliant. I'm not taking anything away from those people. They have done a lot to get to where they're going, and people do not see what goes on behind the curtains of the stage called life. They don't see the struggles. They don't see the self-doubt, the nights where they're crying, the nights where they're wondering this is going to ever work. They only see the result. But here's the thing. No one navigates through their success without the help from others. One personal philosophy is understanding that it's so important that you get people around you, courageous creators of change around you, that can help aid you in your personal growth and development. They can help you redefine what it is to have a good personal philosophy about success, what it is to have a personal philosophy about failure, because this determines how we either move forwards or we go backwards. You are a philosopher. If you're thinking negative every single day about the world, that's your philosophy. If you have optimism about getting through the changes and challenges of life, that's your philosophy. If you feel like every person is not an enemy, but they're a comrade, they're a partner in co-creation of life with you. That's your philosophy. You get to determine what it is that you want to be your personal philosophy. The most important personal philosophy of all is you, your personal experiences. When you are experiencing things in your life, they're not always good. There are days you're going to feel like you wish that day was over. There are moments in time where you wish you would have taken back what you said, or taken back that mistake, or even taking back that encounter. But you can never take things back that are already done. This is why so many people are depressed and they're upset, because they're continuously living into the past and trying to recreate that moment. That's their personal philosophy. But if they knew they could change their future by being more present in the now and doing what they can do by changing their actions, by changing their behaviors, by changing their thought processes, that creates different results. That becomes a new personal philosophy. I started to change my personal philosophy about life when I started reading about all the great psychologists, the great self-development specialists, the great leaders, the great figures of past times, and saw what the commonalities were between them all. They thought differently about themselves and the life that surrounded them. They were focused on something they wanted to achieve in business and in personal life, and their personal philosophy had to match up with that. You will not be able to create a better life for yourself if you think life is crap. You will not be able to have that good relationship or have that nice relationship if you find that people always treat you bad. Your personal philosophy is your belief system, and you operate from that belief system by going out here in the world, and you only find what you think to be true for yourself. Be very careful what you think to be true for yourself. If you think that things are too good to be true, then they will always be too good to be true for you. Be very careful. This is how personal philosophy can either navigate your life or take control of the steering wheel of your life and spin you around in circles of chaos. What is your personal philosophy? Do you know that right now? How do you feel about success? How do you feel about failure? How do you feel about money? A lot of people have this icky feeling about money, but yet they're always complaining about how much they wish they had. What is your philosophy about relationships? What is your philosophy about time? Time is the greatest currency that we could ever have. And if you walk around thinking that you don't have enough time, then you don't have enough time. What's your personal philosophy? You are a philosopher, and how you speak to people, how you treat people, how you deal with people is based on your philosophy. So how can you become a better philosopher in your life? One step here is to be an observer. Start paying attention to what's going on around you. Great philosophers are very keen on detail. If there's something happening and it's touching them emotionally, they pay attention to that. They're watching for the clues of life, for the doors to crack open so they can walk through them. Be an observer and judge less. One problem with people not being able to see the good things in life, they're spending too much time judging what's not going right. Hello. I used to be one of those people. And every now and then I will get around people, or they will get around me somehow. But hey, I don't stick around them very long. And they're judging. They're talking negative about people and things. And there's no wonder why their life is in a complete pandemonium. So observe more, judge less. The second key to building your personal philosophy is to listen. Listen to things. Be a selective listener. If someone is being very negative, if they're being very rude, be a selective listener. Choose to what you want to hear. Then you make your judgment on what you want to hold in your mind. Judge the action, not the person. Become a listener and listen for the things that you know are going to help you and discard the things that are not. This is how arguments happen. When someone's arguing, they're not listening to the other person. They're just trying to throw in their 2 cents and hopefully win the argument. The third step to building a personal philosophy, and this is one of my favorite steps here, is to journal. Journaling is very important because journaling allows us to capture the ideas, the experiences, the feelings, at that time that if we were just to function off of memory, we would lose it within a matter of seconds because there's something else out there that will distract us. You see, we're constantly getting feedback from our environment. We're constantly being stimulated by worries, frustrations, fears from the external sources that we're looking at daily. And this causes us to lose track of that thought that's like the blink of an eye. There's over 60 to 80,000 thoughts that we go through a day, and a lot of them are repetitive. But there's those few thoughts that could be the idea, that could be your breakthrough of change. And if you were to write that down on a piece of paper in your journal, you can go back and read that thought, and you can have that information that will allow you to get through that change or challenge that you need at that time. Journaling also allows us to pay attention to ourselves. You are a philosopher. You got some great things. You got some great ideas. You have a great mind. And if you're not paying attention to what's going on in this beautiful 3-pound organ called the brain, then how can you make any changes in your life? Journal your experiences. Write down the book that touches you, the conversation that touches you. Write down the person who said something that you're like, oh, I need to write this down. That was a great idea. That was a great statement. Because that was necessary for you to hear at that time. There have been many occasions where I've gone back into my journals and I've read something that I needed to read at that time. It's a special way for you to really show how powerful you are. That becomes your personal philosophy. And it is always our personal philosophies in business and in our lives that impacts our results. Everyone has a philosophy. What is yours? How are you going to use it? Think about those 3 steps I told you. To observe, to listen, to journal. Do this daily for 31 days. For a full month. To help you further with developing your personal philosophy, I encourage you to go to my website and to read my recent blog on 2020 vision, because your vision of yourself that determines your personal philosophy of how you see your life. Feel free to drop a comment to let me know what you thought of that. Until then, I encourage you all to be that courageous creator of change in your life. This is the Purposeful Life Show on the Champion Up Podcast with myself, Adrian Starks, and thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed our podcast today, don't forget to give us that 5-star rating and subscribe to the show so you don't miss out on the powerful life-changing content on future episodes. Also, make sure to go to championup.net for even more life-changing content. Until then, I encourage you to be the courageous creator in your life.